Today I am trying a brand that is new to me, Simply Posh Cosmetics. I am going to be playing with their Citrus Punch palette, which is, according to everyone and also me, summer in an eyeshadow palette. This is so gorgeous. I love the colors and the shimmers seem to be quite special too. My eyes immediately drawn to this one over here. No one is surprised. But yes, let's get into it. And while I was at it, I also picked up the berryicy palette, which I believe came out in the winter. And this is my idea of a winter palette. This is gorgeous as well. I was thinking of doing half of my face in a winter fashion and the other half in summer. So let's see how it goes. This comes highly recommended, so I have high expectations. But lately I've learned not to trust everything that's said on YouTube, so do your own research, look up multiple opinions from different people, and then make your decision, would be my advice. Okay, this yellow is a little bit less punchy than I had anticipated. It's not showing up as pastel as I wanted, but that's okay. We can build it up a little bit. Let's go into this orange over here. The orange is quite vibrant. Now let's go for this deep pink. More of a red than pink, but still beautiful. Now let's go into the shade Clementine. Nice pastel-y orange. And this one over here. I want to incorporate the greens as well. So I'm taking this one over here for the inner half of the lash line. Let's lighten up that green. It's looking a little bit muddy there. Now let's put some shimmers on. I'm going with this one for the inner 1/3. And I'm going to use my finger for this one, just to see how they perform with the finger. Okay, that's good. Now let's try a brush. Next I will do this coral shade. All of these are duochromes. Okay, so that's giving a more subtle result. Let's build it up with the finger. This one is a coral to a blue-green reflect. It's beautiful and it's reminding me of something else in my collection, which will come to me in a few minutes, I think. What was it? Yes, the Lore palette. There was one shimmer in there that looked like this. Yep, that's where that came from in my head. Last, let's apply this one, my favorite from the palette. Pink to a green blue shift. Unearthly Cosmetics shade Serpent is at the top, compared with Tasty from the Citrus Punch palette. and then Flavorful from the Citrus Punch palette, compared with Sphinx from the Unearthly Lore palette. Here are the four. Very interesting. This one from the Citrus Punch palette has a brighter coral base, but this one also has a light coral base, which you can see in the pan. And these two, they're also quite similar. I knew the pinks from the Citrus Punch palette were reminding me of something, and it was the pinks from the Unearthly Lore palette. Now let's do some blush and lips. For blush, I'm going to use the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Blush in the shade Golden Hour. Very bright orange shade. Absolutely gorgeous. A nice bright cheek. Goes really well with this. For lips, I want to do Armani Lip Maestro in 401. I really like how this look kind of came together at the end. It looks really nice. At the beginning, I wasn't too sure on what I was going to do. That wasn't gonna look too easy. And one thing surprising that I noticed when I was applying this light yellow color here in the inner 1/3, it didn't seem to be that vibrant. But now that I'm finished with the look, it looks pretty okay. And the colors blended really well, so blending was not an issue there. And the shimmers definitely pick up better with a finger, so they are those type of shimmers. These are nice duochromes. So far, the ones that I've used, they're really nice. I feel like some of the lighter shades, such as this and the light yellow that I mentioned, they need just a little bit of building up, and this light green here as well. But the deeper colors are definitely more pigmented. Overall, I think it's a good palette, definitely workable. I will keep trying more of the shades to see if all of them are quite good, and I will do an updated like a palette review once I've made up my mind about it. Although on first impression, I feel like formulas for some of the shades could be just a little bit better, lighter ones in particular. And these are not foiled multichromes, but these are more like average duochrome shimmers, which are quite nice. But I think where this palette shines the most is the color selection for sure. Now let's move on to the winter side of things. Now let's start with the Berryicy palette, which looks like this. Let's start with this shade. Oop, that's giving nothing. Let's dig a little deeper. Oh no. We're seeing something. Okay, so buildable. It takes a little building, but it did build up. Well, at least that's good. Next, let's go to this shade over here. Gorgeous. I love that tone of blue. Let's do this plummy kind of shade. Beautiful. They're blending into each other seamlessly. Now let's do a little bit of this shade over here. Wow, beautiful shade. I want to skip this warm row in my look today because I want it to be completely cool toned. let's do a little bit of this shade towards the outer corner. And I will also run it under the lash line. It's like a plummy brown. I can see the plum in there. Lovely. And going back into this shade for the inner half of the lash line. Now let's do some shimmers. Like before, I want to try a variety of methods so I know what's the preferable method for this palette. Is it finger application or brush application? And if brush, what kind of brush? Using the Refer 21 for this shade over here. It's a beautiful color. This one is relatively easy to pick up with a brush. And it's building nicely as well. Let's try this shade called Berryicy with a Sigma E55, a very dense brush. Okay, it's not picking up that well with this one, so this doesn't work. Let's do the finger. Beautiful. And the last color that I want to try is this one over here. Ooh. Gorgeous blue reflect. Ever since I opened this palette, I was curious about this shimmer shade over here. So I'm just going to put some of it in the inner corner and run it a little bit along the lower lash line. It's a mauve with a champagne sparkle. Beautiful. There's still a few shades that I haven't used, however, I will be trying them off camera and I will do an updated video with a follow-up review. I will be back with some liner and mascara. I'm going to use the Armani blush in shade 51. This is a dusty rose, which I think will go with this look. A subdued mauve color. Okay, that's enough. I'm going to be wearing the Pat McGrath lipstick in McMenemy. And here is the finished look. So this is how it's looking. I like it. What are my final thoughts about the palettes? I would say that I prefer the formula of the Berryicy palette. With the citruspunch palette, I have noticed that when I was swatching some of the shimmers, it took them 5 to 6 swatches to build up to opacity, which is slightly strange for an indie brand. Indie brand shimmers are usually pretty good. For the Berryicy palette, I think the Berryicy shimmers were on par with whatever I have experienced from indie brands. These were standard, nice, good quality duochromes. These would take a little bit of work. So for me, this one excels at the color story, which this one does too. I mean, this is my perfect winter color story. And this past winter, I had 2 eyeshadow palettes that I thought embodied the spirit of winter, and this was one of them. And the other one I will be doing a video on very soon. That was also a new to me indie brand. I think the matte formula in these is buildable. I would describe it as buildable. They're not too pigmented right off the bat, but you can build them up. In my experience, there have been palettes that are not buildable at all. So I'm happy that these build okay. This lighter color here did take a little bit of work, but the rest were fine. And once I did build it up, it was quite visible, although it does seem to have faded a little bit. So I would say the lighter mattes need some work, but most of the shades are good quality, I would say. Overall, I say these are nice workable palettes. And as you can see, it didn't take me too much effort to create these looks, and they look good. They look quite good. Another thing that I liked about the mattes was that the mattes are very blendable. Some pigmented mattes can be very hard to blend, but this is a buildable and blendable formula. Those are the two words I would describe this formula as. Not overly pigmented though, but you can definitely build them up in a couple of tries for some of the mid-tone to deep shades, and in a few tries, maybe 5 or 6, for the lighter shades. That is all I had to say about the palettes. I'm really loving the contrast of the winter and the summer looks. I want to kind of recreate these looks again when I'm going out. And that is it. That is all for now. Stay tuned for more fun content, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.